Welcome down to my 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. You are listening to Bucs in the Basement. My name's Chris, and Craig here is the biggest Pirates fan you'll ever meet. Let's talk Pirates baseball now. Welcome to Bucs in the Basement.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say one thing, but then the next day it's different. They change, but they don't know what they want. All they do is change. Going left, going right, travel day, travel night. That's where we'll go. No excuses, no goodbyes, no one cries, no one lies. We'll never know. If
An interesting week of Pirates baseball, some ups, some downs, some wins, and even a loss while you're winning. I set this up and put this in motion back when I was down in Bradenton. By chance, ran into one of my favorite players from the 90s and early 2000s, the original Rock. Everybody thinks that Rock is Dwayne Johnson, but there's a different Rock here in Pittsburgh. The pride of Carrick High School, and a man that could probably win you a couple nights of trivia as to who hit the last home run at Three Rivers and who is tied for the MLB record for consecutive games without an error at third base. Color commentator for AT&T SportsNet, John Wehner. John, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, Craig. Good to be on with you, and I appreciate the swag. The Yins shirt and hat. Appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem, man. We just saw you standing over there and told my buddy Taylor, I'm like, that's John Wehner standing over there. And I just kind of shouted your name, and you trotted across the street, got the police they stopped the traffic there, and you came over and hung out with us, and definitely appreciate you stopping by, and definitely appreciate you jumping on here. But we have a lot to get into, and I think we should probably just start out the show with, the big news that is on pretty much every Pirates fan's minds right now, the injury to Oneil Cruz. And I just kind of wanted to get some clarification on, the type of play that evolved there and just the whole situation surrounding it.
Well, first of all, I know a lot of folks think that, maybe he shouldn't be trying to score on that play. For one, Derek Shelton's been pretty aggressive sending runners from third on contact, regardless of out. I'm of the belief that anytime you have first and third, nobody out, you're going on contact from third on a ground ball. And the reason behind that is, you hit a firm ground ball at somebody, you're not breaking, you're going around the horn double play, and you're standing on third base. You got to make them decide whether they're going to cut off the run at home or they're going to go for two. That particular ball is different, though, because it wasn't hit very hard. It's not a double play ball, but the determination is done before that. I'm sure Derek Shelton told Mike Rubello over third base, hey, we're going on the ground. And so, that way the player, there's no read there. You're just going to break as soon as you see the ball on the ground. If it's up the middle, they're probably going two. Turns out it's a weak grounder to third. They're coming home. In my opinion, what Oneil Cruz did, initially you see him on the line, maybe even a couple of feet inside the line. And my belief there is you're trying to block a throw, or you're trying to get in the way of the throwing lane from the third baseman to the catcher. So I'm guessing he went a little bit inside. And you got to know that Oneil Cruz is running hard trying to score. He doesn't know 100% for sure that the third baseman's coming home. So he doesn't know there's going to be a play at the plate until he sees the catcher react. Unfortunately, the catcher reacts about the time Oneil Cruz gets into the dirt. So now Oneil Cruz has to make the late decision to slide. If there's no throw to home, he's probably going to score standing up. Of course you anticipate there being a play there, But again, he can't see behind him. So he's just reading the catcher. He sees the catcher go for the ball. I don't have any fault with the catcher going for the ball or blocking home, because you're allowed to go for the ball. You can't just give the runner a lane without going after the ball. So the catcher reacts to the throw. It takes the catcher into the running lane in front of home plate. Oneil Cruz sees the catcher move for the throw. He tries to get down. Obviously, he slides late. He slides awkwardly. He breaks his ankle. We all know Carlos Santana reacted. He reacted to the catcher yelling something at Cruz for coming in late and hard. Well, I think that's why Cruz goes in late and hard, because, again, he's trying to read the catcher as to what to do there. He doesn't have enough time to go outside and slide outside the plate and try to reach back with his hand like I've read. The catcher's reacting as all catchers do nowadays. If you slide in late and hard, they get worked up, especially if they make the catch in the out. They're all excited. He barks at Cruz. I don't think he knew Cruz was hurt. He just reacted to the play, what happened in that instant. And it's an unfortunate thing. I can't fault anybody. It's a baseball play that just went awry for the Pirates, unfortunately. And Pirate fans, Oneil Cruz, a lot happened in that 2 seconds of a play, and unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be without Oneil Cruz for at least 2.5 months, maybe 3.
Yeah, and that's where, we've seen the replay probably about 20 times, and you see it broken down, almost frame by frame, as opposed to, what happened in real time, which is a bang-bang play, and decisions having to be made, in an instant. I mean, within milliseconds of, him seeing. And the other part is that, Oneil Cruz he's 6'7", so the throw is coming in kind of high, and he has to kind of come up and get it and go down with it, just because, he's in the lane and he's 6'7".
Yeah, that's like I said, there's not a lot a catcher can do differently there. I mean, he's catching the ball. He sees it. The play's in front of him. Unlike Oneil Cruz isn't looking behind him. He sees the play. He sees the third baseman charging, coming home. He's reading a throw, trying to make a catch and a tag. Obviously, Cruz was right there as he made the catch, put down the tag. Like I said, there's not a whole lot you could do differently there if you're the catcher, other than bark at the runner who's laying there with a broken ankle.
Yeah, and he just, was frustrated, thinking he could have gotten injured as well. But the other part of that whole situation is, the Carlos Santana, sticking up for his player. And I think that goes more towards what's been building in this clubhouse that we've seen, from spring training and into this season, which is, everybody coming together and kind of gelling and, respecting one another and wanting to play well. So I know that's the reaction of a Carlos Santana. If somebody sees their player getting yelled at, what's his initial reaction going to be? It's going to be to yell back.
And even if Oneil Cruz doesn't get hurt, you're going to react. And that's where I think people got to understand. I mean, you're in a game, and these guys, Carlos Santana, Andrew McCutchen, Connor Joe, Rich Hill, these veterans that the Pirates have brought in, they're invaluable on and off the field. And when you're playing a game, you're with a bunch of teammates that you're spending a lot of time together with, and you're like brothers, and there's a bond there. And so even if Oneil Cruz went in standing or whatever, it doesn't matter. If the catcher or any player, pitcher, catcher, anybody starts yelling at the player, hurt or not hurt, there's going to be a reaction from the teammates. At least there should be. And so, of course, Carlos Santana, I mean, he's not going to let anybody or nobody should let any player start barking at one of your teammates, and you got to defend the teammate, and obviously Carlos Santana did, and obviously because Cruz was laying there hurt, there's more emotion there, because what are you doing yelling at my player who's down there with a broken ankle? But again, even if he wasn't hurt, you're going to react and stick up for Oneil Cruz right there, and that's part of the game too, and that's something you like to see, as a fan, as a teammate. You can play a pickup basketball game. If somebody starts barking at your teammate, you're probably going to defend your teammate, and That's the way sports has always been. So, thankfully, there wasn't any ejections, and it didn't inflame into a big brawl or anything ugly like that. But Carlos Santana showed his teammate and his city, the team he's playing for now, that he's going to stick up for his teammates, and hopefully that carries over, because you should always stick up for your teammates.
Yeah, and it's just that raw emotion that exists within sports. And for me, like, the first thing I thought of is that in some ways here I jinxed Oneil Cruz. So I'm going to apologize to all of the Pirates fans out there, because ever since Kevin Newman was traded, I had talked about, God forbid if Oneil Cruz gets injured, or if he would start to, struggle severely defensively at the shortstop position, who would fill in for him after that? And now we're going to have to really make that decision here. There are some, veterans within the system, but there's also some guys that have, not experienced great success at the majors at the shortstop positions. Say a Rodolfo Castro. We haven't seen G1 Bay there. Tucapita Marcano. I mean, there's a decent number of guys. How do you see them, possibly, filling this hole?
My guess, based on what we've seen, and especially in yesterday's game, Castro went to short, Bay went to second. That tells me that they're more comfortable with Castro at shortstop and Bay at second. I haven't seen much of Bay at short, nor have I seen a lot of Castro. But Castro probably got more innings there in spring training, and I think he's done okay. And whoever you have over there, and there are some veteran options. I know they brought up Matthias. I'm not positive that he could play much short. I know Chris Owings, he looked good defensively, but they kept him at AAA. You might have to go back to maybe Peguero, who should still be a top prospect. He's still really young, but they obviously think he needs work to be done. That's why he's in Altoona. And so he, but you never know. Somebody's getting an opportunity now, and it could be Castro. And if Castro can handle the position defensively, I think they'll be comfortable with him there. I mean, if he struggles offensively, I don't know how long that leash will be. But they're going to want somebody first and foremost to be able to catch the ball and make the routine plays. I think they feel that Castro can do that. If he struggles severely offensively or defensively, well, then they're going to have to go to somebody else. They'll have to try, whether it be Bay or Owings or Peguero or Matthias, who knows. But, they might have to go in another direction there. But, it really stinks because you lost an all-star caliber type guy. Cruz, I think, has grown leaps and bounds as a shortstop. I've always liked his footwork. The throwing problem, it looked like it was gone. I think he's only made one bad throw that I've seen throughout spring and the beginning of this year. And so, but somebody else gets an opportunity. Unfortunately, in baseball, there's in all sports, there's injuries. And so somebody else gets an opportunity. And so I don't want to call it a tryout, but whether it's Castro today or Bay today or whomever it is, getting most of the reps at short, if he handles himself well enough defensively and he can keep his head above water offensively, you'll take that. But if he struggled defensively, then I think somebody else will be out there, because I think they're going to be more worried about catching the ball and making the routine plays more than the bat at this point.
Yeah, and I always go back to, the coaching decisions that were made, or I guess it said coaching assignments that were made this past offseason, bringing up Mendy Lopez to help out as an infield coordinator, to help Cruz at shortstop. Cruz and Castro, they always like their little double play tandem there. They had a good relationship there. So I think a lot of this, it's going to fall on the players, obviously, but I think that Mendy Lopez is going to be earning his paycheck maybe more than he was, over the past few weeks.
Well, coaching obviously is an important part of any sport, and you appreciate coaches that can help guys at any level. But when you get to the major league level, you're at the major league level for a reason, because you've hit well enough and fielded well enough and did well enough to play at the major league level. So if you can play at the major league level, I mean, sure, you might need some help or some tips along the way by a coach, but that part I think is it could be overrated as far as how much a coach is going to make a player. When you get to that guy, most of these players get to this level because of their talents and because of their performance, not because of the coaching, although coaching has helped them along the way. And so, Donnie Kelly, Mendy Lopez, they work with the infielders. They've worked with them all spring. They work with them every day. Even when they're not taking batting practice, I can see Mendy Lopez out there hitting ground balls to guys. And so, that's all part of it, but it's going to be on the player to be able to perform. And if there are problems, then there's a coach there to fix it. And so, I've always felt that coaches sometimes take too much blame, and they rarely get credit. They work very hard. They should get some credit, but they'll take blame sometimes for if a guy's not hitting or a guy's not pitching. But when a guy hits well or pitches well, you never say, "Oh, wow, what a great job the hitting coach did." I haven't heard that once about Andy Haynes, but Andy Haynes works with these guys all the time. Nobody said, "Oh, Reynolds off to a great start. Way to go, Andy." But when Reynolds is struggling, or when Yelich struggled in Milwaukee, Andy Haynes was the guy that got some blame. So, but it's on the player. It really is. I think the player has to prove whether he can play at this level, whether you're a pitcher, a hitter, or a defender. You have to prove that you can handle the speed of the game, the routine outs. Every aspect you got to prove that you can handle. But you are going to learn things from your coaches. You're going to learn some from veteran players, like we mentioned earlier. But it's on you to be able to take your experiences, learn from the things, whether they're failures or successes, and keep improving your game.
If you ever see me out and about in Pittsburgh, you will always recognize me, and not just because of the white beard, but also because of the Y that is always on top of my head, the hat I always wear. The Yins brand, proud partners with Bucs in the Basement. 3 dynasties, 1 brand, Yins. Finally, 1 brand to rep all black and gold. Follow @ShopYins for new merch drops and giveaways. Order online at www.shopyins, the emphasis on the 2 Z's, high quality comfort, lightweight materials, a new modern look for the black and gold, made for Yins, by a Yinzer. Going to the coaching aspect, some people may not know this, you were the hitting coach for the Altoona Curve from 2002 to 2004. And my thing is that a lot of people are jumping to these small sample sizes. A Jack Sawinski, only 20 plate appearances, only has 1 hit, striking out 30% of the time, is walking 20% of the time. Another guy you mentioned, Rodolfo Castro, only 19 plate appearances, striking out 36.5% of the time, not hitting for the ton of power that we saw from him. And I guess, not like to put you on the spot here, but like, how long does like a coach usually wait, or a manager, or whoever it would be, like to let these guys like work out of like these little slumps they've been having that, started in spring training and are, have begun the year kind of not picking things back up?
Well, you run them out there, and you for one, you're always going to try to throw your best lineup out there. And, it's not always going to be the same guy every day. And at times guys struggle and some guys are hot. And, when guys struggle, you might not see them in the lineup every day. And so they might not play as much. But you're hoping that they're going to get their work in. And then when they get back in the lineup, you're looking for improvement. in the case of Jack Sawinski, did not look good in spring training, did not look good for the first couple of weeks of the season. And if that snowballs, then, I don't know how long the leash is going to be. What is it, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? You don't know. But if it doesn't snowball and you start seeing improvements, in which I believe Derek Shelton, Andy Haynes, I know I saw a different Jack Sawinski yesterday than I've seen probably the first 6 weeks of spring training in the season. And to me, he was struggling getting to a fastball. And when you struggle to get to a fastball, they're gonna expose it. And then, then you're going to start cheating as a hitter, which means starting your swing early, and then you might start chasing pitches out of the zone. Yesterday, the sac fly, a great adjustment he made. He took a fastball, it was either 96 or 97 that was up, possibly out of the zone, borderline strike up and away, and he hit a ball to the wall in center field for the sac fly, the only RBI. Later in the game, he did it once again. He turned around velocity and hit a hard line drive into right center. So to me, you see those improvements in his at-bats yesterday to where, okay, he's not swinging through the fastball. He's not getting beat with the fastball. And so you're more comfortable with going with Jack Sawinski, because when hitters are on the fastball, the game slows down for you a little bit, and you're able to adjust, and you recognize breaking pitches, off-speed pitches, and you're less likely to chase out of the zone. So that was just, for me, a great example of why you show a little bit of patience to see if the things these guys are working on behind the scenes show up during game action, and that did for Jack Sawinski. Castro as well, I thought, started hitting the ball with a little more authority over the weekend, and had some good at bats. I think he went 3-2 yesterday, all three of his at bats, and he chased a 3-2 pitch out of the zone for strike three. I know he walked once, and I forget what happened the other time. I think he might have struck out again. But you're seeing a little more patience from Castro, not the chase. And when he hit the long single, I don't know if that was a couple days ago, I think, off the top of the wall, or long double off the top of the wall the other day. And again, that those are signs that maybe they're turning the corner a little bit as far as feeling more comfortable at the plate, and they can become more productive. And so, but for some, if you don't make those adjustments and you don't see improvement at the plate, that's where, okay, maybe we give them, a handful more starts, and if it continues to spiral, then we got to bring somebody else. But in the cases of Castro and Sawinski, I've seen some signs of improvement, and so you're going to show some more patience.
Yeah, and I the only reason I bring up those two guys for the most part is that fans are going to be looking for where does the production and power that's going to be missed from Oneil Cruz kind of come from, and those guys, both of those guys have unlimited power. I mean, we've seen it displayed over these past few seasons here that, if Jack Sawinski gets hot, I mean, we've seen like 3 over, the Clemente wall with ease. So, I mean, we know that that's in there, and with the change in, the batting stance, making adjustments, whatever it would be. But the other part I'm kind of like looking at just a little bit is protection in the lineup. And for those guys, I look at them and they're usually put like at the, 6, 7, maybe towards the back of the lineup. And I've seen at times Derek Shelton use the lineup to kind of get players going.
Yeah, and so you're always going to try to look at matchups and try to throw the best guys out there against that day's pitcher. And protection lineup is important, especially if you have a guy like Brian Reynolds that's been on fire for the last week and a half. You got McCutchen behind him, so you feel pretty good about McCutchen being behind him, because if they don't pitch to Reynolds, and then McCutchen's swinging the bat well, and then the same goes with Santana. With McCutchen's on base, Santana starts heating up. Now he starts doing some damage, and so you're always going to have holes in your lineup. It's rare to see all 9 guys swinging the bat well, and so there will be matchups that opposing managers will try to get into Fortunately, we don't see too many intentional walks anymore, but we do see pitchers pitch around some hitters that they don't want them to be, that they don't want to beat you. So, but you're just going to construct your lineup the best you can to try to throw the best lineup up there to create some runs. The power part of that, when you look at Oneil Cruz, he hasn't been hot yet, which is crazy because he's still doing a good job getting on base, drawing his walks, stealing some bases, getting his hits here and there. And we still have won, 5 of the last 6 games. And so you don't need a lineup full of power, especially the way the Pirates have been playing. We've seen the stolen base, we see some bunts, we see some, small ball going on, and the offense has been clicking a little bit. And so you're going to run guys out there. Sure, you want Rodolfo Castro to hit the ball at the ballpark now and again, and Sawinski and the rest of the guys, and that's going to come over time. Usually guys have to be pretty locked in before they do that. But but with Shelton, we've seen the lineup changes almost every day. It's in Jigba yesterday. He comes up with the big triple. Sometimes it's Castro or it's Bay or whomever. So there has been some mixing and matching. But if the guys keep swinging and playing the way they have the last week, then you might be able to get through this without Oneil Cruz. Of course, you like to see some guys step up and hit some balls out of the ballpark, but in the meantime, you just run out that best lineup you think that you have against that day's pitcher, and hope to score more than they do.
Yeah, and in my head, I was almost thinking that, not that it puts more pressure on the Pirates pitching staff, but it kind of maybe it will emphasize the need to, keep the other team off the bases and keep the scores down, as opposed to, us continuing to try to run up the score. Yeah, it's great when you score, 13 runs one game and put up a bunch on, Boston and whatever, but it's also nice when you see a guy like Johan Oviedo shove like he did yesterday and win, one of those close 1-0 games.
And that's what good baseball teams can do. You can go out and win a 1-0 game. Especially the day after you give up a bunch of runs, and then we've seen a couple games where we've given up some runs, but yet we've outscored the opposition as well. And so I think without having Cruz in there, I really do think that the first thing that they're going to look at is the defense. They want guys to be able to catch the ball. So when you do get a routine out, it's an out. You don't want to be giving the other team 4 outs. And so offensively, they're going to continue to try to create matchups to maximize their scoring. And it's going to hurt a little bit, obviously, with Cruz. Cruz is a dynamic player. Like I said, he hadn't got hot yet. We still won games. So for me, they'll first look for defense, and then they'll go from there, whether they need, a better defender or if they need more offense from that position. But the pitchers shouldn't feel any pressure unless they start getting ground balls and the plays aren't made behind them. Then they might feel like, I need strike help. And that doesn't normally happen, but it could happen. And so, they're, like I said, they'll throw who they think is best out there. They'll continue to construct the lineup to where they feel that they can maximize run production and go from there.
Yeah, and our Pirates off to a nice 6-3 start here. And I think a lot of people are going to react to, the schedule that's coming up. We got, the defending World Series champions and the Houston Astros, and then taking that long trip to St. Louis, which is not kind to our Pirates very often. Hopefully they will play better since I'll be there for those 3 games, but I don't know, John, that's a tough schedule coming up.
Well, I thought it was tough going into Boston, where the Pirates had won once in their history in regular season play, and the White Sox came in as one of the best offenses, and you win 2 out of 3. That's the greatest thing about baseball is any given day, you can beat anybody. The Pirates beat the Dodgers 5 of 6 last year on their way to 100 losses. It's just one of those things where you can't really look ahead and worry about, what the schedule looks like, and, the defending champs, or the defending world champs, defending the Cardinals, who seem to be always good. Because any given day you can go out there and win. And I know that's like a cliche, we're worried about today, or blah, 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 blah. But that's the way the game is. You outplay them that day. It doesn't matter how many wins or losses you have, whether it's April or September. You try to go out and win that day. And obviously pitching has a lot to do with it. And, if you pitch well, which the Pirates have done, and it was great to see Oviedo do what he did, you get deeper into ball games. You rest your bullpen. Your bullpen is, you got all your horses lined up in case you do have a lead like we did yesterday. I always think it starts with starting pitching and being able to go deeper in ball games to where, Derek Shelton has all his options out of that bullpen. Offensively, you'll see teams get hot where everybody's swinging the bat well. You'll see times where the lineup is cold and you can't find a way to score a run, or enough runs at least. And so, but yeah, you might get an ace on a bad day. You might get a fifth starter on a good day. You never know what you're getting each and every day. Obviously, you might get out talented. Like you look at a series against the defending world champs, and we probably don't have as much talent as them. That doesn't mean you can't beat them. And it's the same with the Cardinals. It doesn't mean you can't beat them, but you just, you go out there to try to win today's game. And then you worry about tomorrow, and crazy things happen in this sport on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's how Major League Baseball players and coaching staffs, that's how they look at a season. You're sure you got 162 games, but you can only worry about today.
Yeah, you can't look beyond that, and I mean, no matter what, it's been exciting in Pittsburgh so far. Hopefully, continues to be exciting. Everybody, We listen to Rock, we listen to Brock, we listen to Brown, we listen to Caps and KY and everything, and it's a game that we love. And John, you know what? This has been a pleasure having you on. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on our little podcast here.
Anytime, Craig, man, good times. And I'm always available to talk a little Pirate baseball, and it's a lot easier to talk about when they're winning. Not always fun when they're losing, but when they're winning, it's always something. I mean, it's my team. I grew up watching and loving this team, and so to be able to work for this club so long, I mean, I feel blessed, and so I'll always offer up my time to talk a little Bucco baseball. Well,
I appreciate it, John, and you have a good one, and let's go Bucs.
Thanks, Greg.
I see the changes in this town. They change, they say